everybody, and welcome to the show. My name's Jake Ganem, host of your average show Grow here on the Cannabis Radio Network, along with co-host Chad Silvia, and special guest welcoming back Mr. Ed Rosenthal, Guru Gandra. How are you guys doing today?
I'm great, man. Thanks for asking. I'm so happy to have Ed back here, man. I'm like, man, I always get a little starstruck when you pop on the screen. I gotta say, I forget all my questions, and I just want to but I have so many I want to ask you.
Yeah, some of the general conversation questions end up just being the best ones, though. And Ed, to correct me if I'm wrong, man, since we had you on the show probably about 6 months ago, maybe at this point, and I got to say, I learned a lot from you on that original show, and it's one of those shows where I felt like we could have kept on going for like another hour or two. There's just so many questions, and with each question, you have like a 20-minute conversation afterwards. For anybody that is just tuning in and you didn't see or know who Ed is, a simple Google will just show you who he is. But we have him on the show here today, so we're going to pick Ed's brain, and we're going to find out some great stuff. Now, anybody that's just tuning in, why don't you tell them, Ed, a little bit about yourself, how you got involved in the industry, involved with High Time Startup, all like the legendary stuff right before it actually started becoming legal.
Well, I was introduced to marijuana just shy of my 21st birthday, and as soon as I met the plant, I realized that we were going to have a long-term relationship. And I was always interested in gardening and horticulture. In fact, when I was a kid, I had taken classes at the New York Botanical Gardens in the Bronx on gardening classes. And so naturally, when after I started using it, I decided to try and grow it. And at that time, most of the cannabis that was coming in from Colombia, Mexico, and Jamaica. Mm-hmm. And so, and it was all seeded. It wasn't scents at all. So there were plenty of seeds around to try growing with. And I started growing in my apartment. I had a large apartment, and I devoted a bedroom to it, or portion of a bedroom. And that was the start of it.
That's where it all began.
Sensimilia, people. Sensimilia. That's what he was referring to as far as seedless, in case you guys didn't know that.
But I was saying it was seeded. It wasn't sense.
But you said it wasn't sense. Yeah, that's what you said. Yeah, so I'm saying sensimilia.
Yeah, it was all seeded, very heavily seeded.
Right.
And so then and at some point I decided to make little greenhouses indoor greenhouses so people could grow their own. And Rolling Stone magazine picked it up and introduced me to this other fellow, and we decided to write a book about it, Mel Frank. We decided to write a book about it, and then the book took off. And if you're doing something that you like doing and you're getting paid well for it,
you're living.
You generally continue doing it. So
Ed, did you just say you basically invented indoor grow tents to some degree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Awesome. Yeah. That is so cool to hear.
That is cool. That's something new. I didn't know that either.
It was called the Clear Light Company, and they were illuminated using fluorescent tubing.
Wow. When you just said that, it's just kind of like, this day and age, back when you first started, there wasn't like the abundance amount of strains, right? So like they had like Panama Red, Acapulco Gold, Jamaican Red, all those like old school landlight strains. And then those were from Colombia, Jamaica, Mexico, as you had said. And then also
Thailand played a role, a little bit of Afghani.
The
but
Afghan, correct?
not
So that's
that
where
much,
Kush
not
came
that
from.
much Afghani because that usually came as hash.
Okay.
But you had all these Central and South American, Mexican, uh, Colombian, uh, Jamaican, and then Thai.
Yeah, the
So
Thai stick, right?
those were the original strains, and then um, there were a couple of seed companies that set up in Amsterdam, in Holland.
Netherlands. Yep, Amsterdam.
Yeah, yeah, and that was the seed bank with Neville and the group of people that did Super Sativa Seed Club (SSSC) seeds, um, and those two groups started um, distributing the first post land race varieties that were bred. Some of them, like, was, for instance, skunk number one, hash plant, uh, big bud,
Mhm.
things like that.
All the
So
originals. One of the things
Yeah.
I,
what?
it's like this day and age, everything's so prevalent with hybrids, right? It's like you don't really see too many landrace strains anymore. And I feel like I didn't really hear the word hybrid until, I mean, obviously I'm much younger than you, and I started I was probably about 12 years old. I was young. But I remember in high school or so, or right after high school, the word hybrid kind of came about. And the next thing you know, everything's being crossed with each other. It wasn't as
Well,
prevalent back in the day. Correct me if I'm wrong.
you,
Like the crossing of
you're
strains.
wrong.
Oh,
You
okay.
you're wrong. Think of it.
Fair enough.
You never smoked a land race.
Fair enough. It's like an original,
So
original strain.
yeah, you never smoked a land race, and the thing about land races is um, they're if you actually tried one now, you'd think that it was weak and that you'd much prefer the quote hybrids. But as soon as you cross two varieties, two different varieties, let's say you have a Moroccan and a Jamaican, and you cross those, that's a hybrid.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then sometimes you can stabilize them somewhat, and sometimes you get ones that have variable phenotypes. And what is really going to be valuable in the future will be uh, that the seeds are not variable. It would be so that if you had seeds that produce very, very similar plants that had the same ripening time and almost the same content of THC and terpenes, then you wouldn't there wouldn't be a need for clones.
Sure. Yeah, you can just keep on
And,
producing the
and
seeds.
right, and if you're growing from seeds, it's much less likely that you're carrying forward any kinds of diseases.
Mhm.
For
Sure.
instance, people talk about hop latent virus, which is very serious, and seeds are less likely to carry it. So if you have two mother, two plants that are certified not to have hops latent virus and other viruses, and you produce seeds from those plants, then those seeds won't have diseases. And so it would be much easier to plant from seed that was known not to be disease carry any diseases.
What
No,
about with the tissue culture? Can they strip the HPV with the tissue culture?
It's very difficult.
Okay.
really.
It's very difficult because parts of the tissue culture might be infected and other parts not. It's very difficult, but it is a way. I mean, and you know, you just do it time after time till you've eliminated it. So you make another tissue culture from samples from the first one, and have generations of that till you get rid of the virus. Or
Just a trial and error.
yeah.
It's kind of, I got a
I
good
have
question.
one more question, Jake, that I gotta ask though. So,
I go for it.
what is you probably know? Obviously, I know hash, and hash has evolved big time. Bubble hash, rosin, we have all that stuff now. But when you were mentioning, I've been waiting to ask this since you were mentioning like Afghani, and most of that came in hash. What's what's the main reason that really everything was hash from there? That's really what Afghanistan, that's what they were into, right? Hash.
Well, it's weak. It was weak. The,
Okay.
the plants they were starting from were weak. So Morocco, when I first went to Morocco, which was more than 35 years ago, uh, the plants they looked like maize plant, like corn plants. They had a single stem. They came in around August, last week in August. They were very weak, in terms of potency. And even somebody would say to me, "Oh, I smoked some good Moroccan," and I think, well, that's a contradiction in terms, you know. So, and
Oxymoron.
so those plants no longer exist in Morocco because what happened was the people the uh, Europeans who were doing trade in the hash, they would bring seeds, and it's open pollination. There's one. It's in it, all almost all the hash from Morocco is grown in one province, which is called Katama, and it's uh, it's it's a different people eth- ethnicity than the rest of Morocco. It's mainly Berber, and um, it's not developed the way the other parts of Morocco have developed. It's so would call it almost tribal. I'm not saying that they have a tribal leader or anything like that, but they have their own customs and their own way of doing things, and the Moroccan government doesn't interfere with it because it doesn't want problems. And in that province, the only thing that is grown commercially, people might have a garden or something, but the only thing grown commercially, literally, is is cannabis,
Wow.
and it's grown. You can look out from in the main city. You can look out at the dilapidated main hotel and Ishugan, and you look out and you see fields of cannabis in the hotel everywhere. It's growing everywhere in the province, so it has open pollination.
So the
So
seeds,
as
you think it's
so
seeds?
as more and more European seeds came in, it affected the plants, and the plants look very different than they looked, you know, many years ago. It's a
Wow.
totally different, yeah.
That's it's just crazy the evolution of the cannabis plant and where it's gone now. And I just want to bring it back to one quick question I have for you. With when you're talking about tissue culture and growing from seed and all those different things, how it is, obviously from seed, there's a less chance that it's going to have a disease once it grows compared to a clone. Now, this has always been a question for somebody. Say someone has a clone and they get powdery mildew at one point. Now, some people say it's systemic. Some people say that if you get rid of it and you clone that plant, then it's rid of the powdery mildew. And this has been a conversation that's gone back and forth on what the actual answer is. And I've always been told that if you get powdery mildew, it becomes systemic within the plant. So even if you get rid of it, if you cut a clone from that plant that once had powdery mildew, there's a good chance that you'll get it again. Do you have any input on that?
Well, um, it, there there are indications that it's systemic,
Sure.
and
Okay.
so you wouldn't want to take even and I think that it needs certain conditions in order to indicate. but and start growing, but it might be in the plant. And there are a lot of arguments about whether it is or isn't, but you don't really want to take clones from plants that have shown it.
Sure. It's like, kind of like, why take the risk if you don't need to?
That's right.
Yep, very understandable. So let's get on to a little bit about. So since this past 6 months, I was talking to your assistant Jane, great person. She was saying you were over in Europe. What did you have going on? Were you working over there, or was that vacation?
Actually, Humboldt Seeds invited me to join them over there, and uh, uh, I'm um, I'm working on a project with them and Sensi Seed, and so it's a series of projects, and so it's really very exciting that um, two prominent companies like that. Sensi has, you know, it has a group of really classic plants that everything was that large part of our the American seed plasm has uh, developed from, and and then you have Humboldt, which is a scientific seed company, and so those two forces joining hands is really very exciting. And
You guys are ready to battle the Klingons with that team up.
well, I realize that it's very exciting being part of helping that project along. So it's
Absolutely.
taken a very long time to put that together.
Sure, you're doing some specials right now, I believe, on your website. With you're trying to get rid of 1 million seeds. I was looking through your website earlier. You guys
Yeah.
got a lot going on. What are you doing with that?
Well, um, I call it the Million Marijuana Seed Giveaway,
Okay,
and the idea is to give people seeds, free seeds, and often it's uh, in conjunction with a purchase, and then sometimes not. Depends on the situation. But
sure. So anybody watching right now, they can go right to your website. We have it right on the screen.
yeah,
And is there a specific place that they go to so if they purchase maybe a book or something of that sort? Does it need to be like a certain?
yeah, they'll see it all.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on but yes, I have this website where we do sell the books and also these hats. And um,
You got me wearing my hat
yeah,
today. I like it.
yeah, yeah. And the reason why we're wearing these hats is to remind people to protect themselves from the sun. Plants do really well getting some UV, but we don't. We we get burned, especially if the more fair skinned you are, the more dangerous the sun is, and but it's dangerous for everyone, and so and it causes many cancers, many skin cancers, so that you want to keep yourself protected. Well, one way to be protected is don't be out in sunny areas during times of the day that you that the that there's high UV, and a lot of people don't know this, but on your phone where you have the weather, you have weather on your phone, right?
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
if you look down, it will give you the UV rating of
Oh,
what's going on right in your area. Not
what's
a
like a
general one.
healthy? What's like a healthy level?
Well, they'll tell you that same info app will show you. It will tell you what's healthy and
Oh, okay. Give you
because
a range.
but anyway, look, you definitely want to protect your face. And if you don't protect your face, what you'll eventually get is rosacea from it, which is that the blood vessels actually break so that the face looks red. And I had terrible. I mean, my face is still a little ruddy, but I had terrible rosacea. I'd walk into a room and people say, "Why are you so angry?" And it was at my face. And I said, "I'm not angry." You know? But anyway, and it's painful to get rid of that too, because it entails actually laser bursts on your skin. So anyway, the best way to deal with it is not to get it, and so that you should protect your face. And a baseball cap won't do it. You know, a cap with that
This
just
no, isn't
like
cut.
this, it
That's not cut.
doesn't protect your ears,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't protect your neck at all. So and also another thing is that white T-shirts don't protect. A black T-shirt is or a dark T-shirt is much more protection.
Mhm.
And
And people do the opposite out in the sun. They try not to wear black because of the heat, but it's
Yeah,
actually
absorbs
better for
it.
you to.
you know, I'm trying to find a material that's like a panda material, like
Mm-hmm.
the panda
Yep.
plastic,
Sure.
and so that you have white, white on the outside to reflect light, a lot of light, and the black on the inside so that it doesn't get to your body. But I haven't found it yet. But so
Good
anyway,
idea.
I do produce these hats now. It has a cute little um, uh, marijuana leaf on it, so the cops know what you're about. And
No secrets over here.
So I just had on our show Table Talk, Stoner Rob. You know, he does some stuff with with your friend Tommy Chong, and he was just telling that story how he was at an event where we just won a competition and stuff, but he was saying how he legally changed his name to Stoner Rob, and he goes, that was cool for like 3 days until I got pulled over and had to show the cop my ID. He's like, he told him, "Oh, I called my." He said, "Oh, what do you smoke weed?" He said, "No, I do that because I collect rocks."
Yeah,
But
stoner
he's a
Rob.
riot.
Yeah, that can cause some issues down the road a little bit.
always
Let's talk.
carry some rocks. He should always.
He just has like a handful of pebbles all the time.
Stones in his pockets. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. So Ed, tell me, how is the season going over there on the West Coast? We over here in New England, we have a video we're gonna show. We typically do an update video every week just to make sure that at every point of the season there's usually something else to do and we like to keep it relevant. But we've been having this is probably the rainiest year I've
Yeah.
ever seen in my entire life. It's rained almost every single day. I've watered my plants. I've had to hand water my plants maybe 5 times this year, if that, because it's like rainy, hot, soupy.
Been
I'm
very
glad.
bizarre out here.
Well,
Yeah.
what I would do is I would get some. I would go on the internet and look for potassium bicarbonate, and
Okay.
don't don't get a brand name that charges some outrageous price. Buy it bulk, like a pound or two of it,
Okay.
and the shipping might cost as much as the material costs. It's not expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So if you make a 1% solution, so that would be about 1.5 ounces in a gallon of water. So
As a foliar
you know,
spray.
Which is baking
yeah.
soda, right?
Yeah.
Baking soda.
So that's sodium bicarbonate and potassium bicarbonate is sodium bicarbonate. You get too much sodium, that's not good.
All right.
So, but the potassium is actually absorbed by the plant. It's a plant fertilizer,
All right.
a
Okay.
plant nutrient that the plants will absorb. So I would spray that after every rain.
And this
It's,
will help
uh,
with diseases, powdery mildew,
uh,
all those things.
Powdery mildew and botrytis,
Okay.
brown
Good.
mold. Yeah, will help with those too. And
Okay.
That's good to know.
and yeah. So,
Typically, silica.
but the other thing, if it's rainy out, can you put an umbrella over the plant? I mean, that's really serious because the water gets into especially as the bud matures, the water gets into the bud, and it's hard to get it out. So you open up the bud and you find it's all moldy.
Yeah, the
So
Right
buds.
now we're in
other thing,
the vegetation stage, so we're hoping it doesn't. We're hoping it kind
well,
of
We're hoping
clears
all
up
this
by flower.
done. Hopefully, we're just done with all this rain come
you could get
mid-August.
it to start flowering now. The way to do that is just cover the plants. It depends how big the plants are, but cover them every night so that they get 12 hours of light of darkness of
Mhm.
Like stepping.
uninterrupted dark. I have a lot of that in my. I cover that a lot in my books, like for instance, Grower's Handbook, and uh, also Harvest, Ask Ed, yeah, all of those,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that was, you see that harvest there. That was, we did that uh, in Oakland. It was an acre outside. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Right
It
in
is
Oakland.
amazing.
Right
It's
in Oakland.
amazing. I got to say, last year was probably one of the best seasons I've had for outdoor growing. It was just like hot, dry, didn't rain too
Well,
much, wasn't too humid. And this year has literally been the complete opposite.
well,
But we're lucky; it's
well,
still vegetating right now. So
well, you're rainy. Look what's happening in Texas, where there's that heat dome. Nothing's going to survive that.
so what's
You
happening
know,
in Texas? A lot of heat, you said?
heat, they call it a heat dome. It's covering Texas, and it's up to 115
Oh
degrees.
God, Jesus,
Yeah,
that's too much.
just imagine, just imagine plants in that. You know,
They're not
I
surviving.
no, I don't think so. And then there's been everywhere you go, all across the country except the West Coast right now. There's been truly miserable weather, and where I am, we had the worst spring, the worst May, the worst June. It was just cold. It's like
It's a weird
It's
year for
almost
you
like
us,
somebody
right?
doesn't want stuff to grow.
Yeah, no,
anything. Uh, uh, California is a big agricultural state, and farmers planted up to a month later because the ground and the environment weren't ready for planting. I'm not just talking about cannabis. I'm talking about uh,
everything.
everything,
Agriculture,
and
farming.
you'll see it
Mm.
reflected in the prices of fruits and vegetables.
Sure.
A lot of the stone fruit, they flowered at the wrong time. Compa- well, they flowered at the right time, but the weather was not conducive to good pollination.
Yeah, it's
So
definitely been
that's
it's been quite the
so.
season we've been having this year. And one of the things actually that we've been doing that I don't know if you're familiar with at all is electric culture growing. We have a quick video we're going to show for you guys shortly. We've been doing a compare and contrast. I'm not quite sure if you're familiar with it or anybody else that's viewing. Basically, it's just copper, simple copper wire
Yeah,
wrapped around a pole. You put it about 6 inches into the ground, and supposedly the gathers electromagnetic waves out of the air, puts that within the
yeah.
soil, helps the plants grow, and also helps prevent bugs. And I'm like, it seems like a no-brainer. Ed, do you have any input on the electric culture? Have you heard of it?
I have, and there's this information company called Rex Research,
Mm-hmm.
and they um, republish all kinds of basically older experiments about electroculture using um, sending electricity through the soil.
Mm-hmm.
There was a company that made a little solar device that they said was transferring it to the soil, and so there was research on this in the early 20th century up through the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
I
it's been
have
around
heard
for
of it, but I I haven't experimented with it, and I don't know anybody who has.
fair enough. Well, we have a quick video for you guys. This is basically
Yeah,
for everybody in New England here. what you kind of want to be doing at this point of the season. And also, to each in their own. There's no specific way to grow. This is just the way that we've grown over the years and we've found success with. Kudos to all the other growers out there that have different techniques. We have nothing but respect for you guys. This is just kind of how we've done it and found success over the years. We got a quick video and we will be right back.
Great.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope everybody's enjoying the show so far with the guru of ganja, Mr. Ed Rosenthal. We are about midway through July. We're getting there. These plants, as you can see, are doing pretty well. We've been having a very rainy season. I've literally had to water these probably maybe handful of times for the entire season. But all in all, everything's doing pretty good so far. Over here, we have our apple fritter. This is the one that we did a lot of low stress training from the initial break right there. As you can see, we moved that one out, and then we've just been bending these branches outwards a lot. And as you can see, she's really bushed out, and that's pretty ideal for getting a good final yield. Over here, we have our jelly lemonade. This is our in-house strain. Everything's looking pretty good. Over here, we have, this is Purple Chem Dog. This is Jesus Juice from Eternal Cultivars. This is our in-house lemon gelato 45, and then we have our lemon cherry gelato. Some of you guys know we've been doing the electric culture growing this season, putting it to the test on this one right here, this one right here, and this one right here, leaving this one over here without. They've all been in, they're all the same pot size. They were all the same size. They went out here. These two right here, in particular, the two different gelatos, is really the ones we were putting to the test. And as you can see, this one over here is a little bit bigger than this one over here. This one still looks great, but this one is a little bigger. So at this point of the season, it's getting close to that point where we're going to want to transfer these into their final flowering pots. Some of the ways you can kind of tell here is you can see these leaves. See how they're starting to lighten up just a little bit, not too bad compared to something like this, nice and dark and green. Nice and dark and green. That's basically a telltale sign that this plant right here is starting to lose nutrients a little bit. So there's a couple things that we can do. Typically, I don't like to transfer until about the third week in July. So there's a couple things that we're gonna do to give this a nice little boost before we get into that last final transfer to give it a little extra nutrients. So I'll pass this off real quick. All right. So one product that we have that this is actually our bloom product, and this is something that is just a simple top dressing. This has biochar, worm castings, fish bone meal, alfalfa meal, kelp. There's like, I think we got about 15 different products in here. Ideally, they're for flowering, but they also do great in veg. We put this to the test last year, and it's just a simple top dressing. This is something that I'm just going to just kind of sprinkle on here evenly. It's very, stuff goes a long way too. You don't need a lot of it. And I'm just doing a simple top dressing, just pretty much like a quarter inch on top. Boom, probably about a half a bag. And this will give it a nice boost of all those different additives to really kind of bring the green back to it before we do the final transfer. One of the questions that I had actually for Mr. Ed, if you want to come over here, is maybe you can help me this when we go back to the show. This plant in particular, it's not re-vegging, but if you can see, zoom in, it looks like it's already starting to flower just a little bit. You can see over here how it's starting to kind of stack up a little bit right along the stalks here. But it's been like this for probably about 2 weeks without any difference. So my question to Ed is this, do you think just something to do with the strain specifically, or does it have to do with the lighting, which is typically the reason which makes a plant go into flower? So when we get back to the show, I'll be happy to ask you again, Ed, if what your personal professional opinion is on this particular lemon cherry gelato. But other than that, this one is definitely growing a little bit more with this electric culture growing. I don't know for a fact if this is the actual culprit of this. It could be strain dependent, but it seems like the ones that I did the electric culture with are definitely a little bit bigger. So at this point of the season too, obviously we're always talking about it, defoliating, kind of let the plant tell you what needs to go. Like if you look down in here, just dumb little stuff, see the yellowing leaf? just, the plant will kind of tell you what it wants to shed off of it to an extent. And obviously, always be kind of low stress training. This one in particular, I saved this one. And this is one that I've been kind of, this was just a simple top. This was from seed. This was 2 stalks. And I've been stress training it a little bit. And that, if you're unfamiliar with that, that is basically pinching, mending your stalk out. Be very careful not to snap a branch. If you do, it's not the end of the world. You can use some tape or something like that to kind of bring it back. But just kind of pushing that down. And I've been doing this pretty consistently throughout the season here. But the thing is, if you don't have this tied down, the plant's going to want to start to go back up. But with doing so, you can see all these new nodes starting to pop up here. Therefore, this will bush out. These are going to be a couple. This and the purple cam are going to be the ones that we germinate and make seeds with this year. Last year, we had a lot of great results with it. We have actually some of the final bud. We'll show you guys later in the show. And make sure you guys stay on it at this point. It's been so rainy and all that stuff up here that it is prime conditions, especially with the humidity that we've been having, that you're going to get bud rot, you're going to get powdery mildew, botrytis, all those things you don't want unless you're spraying with some kind of preventative. Ideally, for years I've been using the Organicide 3-in-1. This is a great product. This isn't even a sponsors of ours. This helps with insects, fungus, all those different things. But we also, this is one of our close sponsors, the Plant Bodyguard. I used this for the past year indoors, had no issues at all. So that's a good sign. So we're putting it to the test outdoors here. But I'm doing a kind of bi-weekly kind of thing. I spray once 1 week with this, 1 week with the Organicide, and so far so good. And you also got to remember, here in New England we get caterpillars. And these caterpillars can cause you headaches with bud rot and all that stuff. So the Monterey BT, or the Monterey Garden Insect Spray, the BT, start spraying with this now to kind of get a layer on your plant so that once they come, and typically flower season's mid-August or so, they'll start. But starting to do this now will kind of build up like a shield on your plants to help prevent them from laying eggs and doing all those things that are going to cause you issues. And that's about it. I mean, we haven't been able to water too much nutrients in, but the 2 main ones are obviously Fish It, great microbes for your soil. This pretty much opens your roots to be more available, ready for all the additives in there to absorb into the plant. And then also you have Silica. This really builds up your cell walls and helps to combat any issues that you might have with outdoor growing. So other than that, we have plenty of seeds available on the website. We have consulting available, any of that stuff. If you guys have any questions for Ed or myself or Chad, feel free to reach out. We're happy to help you guys. Other than that, back to the show. All right, everybody, and we are back to the show here. That's what we got going on with the outdoor right now. And I'm glad to see that. Not glad to see it, but all this rain right now isn't the end of the world for the outdoor plants. But Ed, I don't know if you were watching, in the simple fact of I have that one lemon cherry gelato, and it looks like it's starting to flower, and it's way too early over here. And typically, they can go into a re-veg. I've seen this a lot in the group. The Average Joe Grow group is people have been having a lot of plants going to re-veg, and usually that's because they put them out too early in the season. They put them out like the 1st of May. Here with the light cycle, typically the 3rd week in May, you're pretty safe with not having that issue. Do you think that there's any other reason why they're starting to flower right now? Is it stress maybe? I'm kind of scratching my head on this one.
Well, there are 2 possible reasons.
Okay.
One is that the plant was placed outside. It depends when the plant was placed outside,
Sure.
because it may if it came from an indoor location where it was getting 18 or 24 hours of light, continuous light or near continuous light, and then it was suddenly put outside, it would flower. But I don't think that was the case here. So I think that it's genetic, and I think that plant is an early plant, and just that it would probably, if it's continuing to flower, will come in early September. or
Which is
mid-September.
actually kind of nice, to be honest, if that could happen. I'm just kind of worried about it going into flower because right here in New England, usually it's about mid-August, sometimes a little bit earlier. Flower season
Oh,
starts with the light cycle, and right now, what's the date? The date's the 11th.
yeah.
So it's just a little early for it to be going into flower. But also, like you were saying earlier in the show, maybe it's a strain that I want a light depth for maybe a month or so until it gets over to that time
Well,
frame. So I don't have any
I would actually, I would like that for all your plants now,
light
because
depth.
wouldn't you? Yeah,
Get them
think
going.
about this. Think about this. Wouldn't you rather harvest in September than October?
100%. Of course. October gets a little
Well,
iffy.
so the plants, right, and by October, especially in the Northeast, you have cloudy weather, so you don't have that nice warm weather to ripen those buds. But in September, you still have it. So what I would do is I would actually light dep them all.
Yeah, I have I actually have a greenhouse
How
being
long do you think, Jake? You gotta like outs and Ed. How long do you think you would have to light that for? Right now, if you were trying to flower, a couple weeks.
I well, realistically, right? So typically, a plant takes about 10 to 12 days, or 10 to 14 days, right, to like from the initial 12 to start
Yeah, but I'm
showing
saying as far as
flower.
the light schedule.
Actually, I want you to think about that. We say
Okay.
12, 12, but that's not really true, because let's take the other plants that are there. When will they act? When will you first see indications of flowering? Sometime in August, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
They're getting fewer than 12 hours of darkness.
Yeah,
For
so
sure.
like Ed said, it's darkness. You think of the hours of darkness, not light. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
but
anything 10 hours of darkness plus will start to flower
yeah,
usually.
Agree.
I think so.
Yep. So I have a greenhouse that's coming. It's funny. This year was like I have like my go-to greenhouse that I usually order every single year. It usually gets beat up a little bit every year, but all in all, it's great for the price. It fits like right in that little nook I have on my deck, and so like if we get wind, it has nice support on the sides. Of course, this year they were out of stock, so I'm kind of scrambling. I found another one. It's a foot. It's 12. The original one I had would be 9 by 11, and it was perfect for in there. The one I have coming is 8 by 12, which is fine. I'll make do with it.
You,
Um,
I want you to think about something.
okay,
Let's say your plants are about 3 feet high, right? 4 feet high.
probably about 4 feet or so. Yep.
Okay, so let's say you just made a frame that was like 6 feet high, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then you got you got panda plastic,
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
a roll of it, and every night you just put that over. Put the plants in there in the frame, and put the panda plastic over it,
Over the whole
and the
greenhouse.
way,
Yep. And
yeah,
then
over
basically
the
take
whole.
it off in the morning. Correct.
It's easy to do. I mean,
So how
uh,
conscious do you have to be of like obviously in indoor we look for light leaks and stuff. Not you don't have to
Yep.
be as conscious of light leaks when you light that thing.
well, like I did it and had photos of it from last year, and uh, um, the way that I did it, well, first of all, you don't really get light leaks too much from it. You can look inside of it when the light is when you. I checked to see whether there were any holes in it, and just were no holes. I had a 6 mil plastic. It lasted the season, and you have to do it through uh, about August 10th, August 7th, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Count back, for instance, 2 months from where uh, from flower from ripening. So, like, if you're ripening uh, October 15th, if you're harvesting October 15th, then October 15th, then the plants are probably going to indicate by August 15th. So you would have to do it until about that time.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna put it to.
And it's well worth doing.
It's nice. Well, it's just like
So I started messing with this year, and similar to your concept of trying to harvest earlier, is me, Jake, and myself have never, for as long as I've been growing, probably over 10 years. Well, indoor growing over 10 years, because when I was a kid, I was chucking them outside and stuff. But as far as autos, I've always grown photos. So we started messing with a few autos. And I'm experimenting with them because, there's some that go like 120, there's some that are 80 days, and just experimenting with what I can do as far as we do a lot of this stuff to kind of test and find out, like, people ask us a lot of questions about auto seeds. Like, can you top them? Can you not top them? Can you transplant them? Can we stress train them? All that. So I have a few of them that I'm doing some stuff. Now, funny, Jake had popped a few and he gave me a couple. And when I got it, one started flowering right away. And then I was like, this other one's not an auto. It's not flowering. So then I went away for the weekend. I came back and the thing is like full on flowering. So it's just a longer auto. Not to shorten that all up, like how do you feel about autos? I mean, there's a lot of talk about them as far as the genetics not being as strong or the potency and losing some of that, but it does allow you to be able to harvest in a different time of the year, no matter what of the sunlight. So we're trying to kind of, find out about this a little more.
Well, depending on the auto and the situation, you might use it. You might not want to use it for bud, but you might want to use it for concentrates.
Okay.
So,
sure.
And it really depends on how much light they get. A
lot of
and they
factors,
don't need
right?
they don't need as much light as other plants. So, if you have an auto, it's easy to get. So if you have, for instance, a 90-day auto and you plant in June, it's easy to get a plant, to harvest in September. So and you don't have to do any light depth.
Light
By the
depth.
way, the super high life that I helped with Humboldt, and that is it's superbud times a gas plant, and so that will naturally start to flower in your area around July 15th, July 18th, and it will
That's nice.
come
You
in
get a September harvest.
So,
Yeah, that's really nice. I like that. So Ed, we got a
So I
couple.
have a couple. We got purpose genetics. I have an actual. I have some do going. So I guess that's kind of what I was wondering, if you think from like one, do bred as an auto to a regular do as a photo, would it lose potency, do you think? I obviously understand it's predicated on the light and all, but if you say the strains were grown side by side, same condition, everything,
A photo and an
the auto
auto
would be less potency?
Yeah, you don't see autos getting those high numbers that
usually not.
other plants. But look, I'd rather have a plant with let's say 20% that that actually comes in and isn't diseased than a 30% plant that would have been good, except that it wasn't harvested.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Makes
It all
sense.
kind of depends on the situation of the grower. And we talk about that all the time. Like when I do consulting and stuff, it's like people ask, like, should I do it like this or should I do it like that? This guy does it like this guy does it. I said, it's all going to really be based on your lifestyle and how you're able to tend to them, and what you're able to do, to say what you use. If you do autos, if you do photos, if you're doing cocoa or soil or hydro, like all that stuff is going to depend on more your lifestyle. But you can get, and people say, well, you get more yield with cocoa. But yes, unattended cocoa, you're not going to. So now, if you're not going to be able to tend to the cocoa, you're better off having a loaded soil. So I agree with you 100%. Yeah, good stuff.
So Ed, we've got some questions from you from members in the group. If you don't mind answering, they wanted your personal opinion on some of this stuff. So we have Randall Johns. He wanted to know how you feel about PGRs in the industry, how they're so prevalent, and how you feel about those.
Like that.
The
The,
plant growth
no,
regulators.
I know about, and what they usually do is they stop stretching,
With
and
using them?
so that so what they so that the plants look stockier. But here is the thing: there are no PGRs that are registered for edible plants.
Oh, really?
That's right.
Wow. That's
They're only for ornamentals. They're not meant for. They're not. the- And so, how do I feel about them? I feel that you should not use them, and you should not. You should not use them. And if you know that plants have been treated with PGRs, you shouldn't use them either. I mean,
probably
you
shouldn't
shouldn't
put that in your
smoke them.
body. Yeah, it doesn't seem
That's
healthy.
exactly right. But there are no You could look it up. There are no PGRs that that you look up on on the actual products, and
Mm,
you'll see that they're not registered for edible plants. You won't see them like in magazines geared to vegetable growers. You
sure.
see them for ornamental plants.
Well, that's good. That's good to know. So that brings me to my next question here. In your personal opinion, do you prefer smoking flower that is synthetically grown through a nutrient line, or would you rather have consumed something that is grown in a living soil, organically grown? I've had great with both, to be
Well,
honest, but you know, everybody
Well,
has their preference.
I like water culture a lot,
Oh, so
and
hydroponically.
so
Okay.
not aquaponics. Aquaponics would be with fish and everything, but
Okay.
I'm just talking about a water culture without the fish, and that's all mineral based.
So with that, would that?
You can't do that with you can't use organics in there.
Okay.
Well, and they
So
say there's no scientific evidence that the plant can distinguish,
between
where the
the two,
mineral is
right?
coming from.
Well, there's not really been a, a really blind taste and you know blind
Blind
cup.
placebo test kind of deal.
There's never been a blind cup of um,
I know what you're saying.
organic of organic versus mineral. And I grow my tomatoes with mineral fertilizers. So um, in this hydroponic, and I've never heard anybody complain about their taste. So,
Well, to
Yeah,
touch on
no,
that, we just won a cup, first and third place, and we grow in cocoa core, and in this particular room, and there were a couple other organic growers in there. So I think again, it's predicated on the grower, it's
well,
predicated
how
on the
you
well,
flush
flush, it's
what
it.
but
predicated on the use of.
what were you using for nutrients?
So in this grow, we were using hydroponic research, veg bloom. We've been using it for a little while. It's they source all their products with natural mineral salts. We're working with a new company now, Ibex, that we're testing some nutrient out that we're getting some some really good results. But that particular one was veg bloom. But I will tell you, and Jake, you had said you started doing this a little more lately too. Is the organic teas
Oh
really
yeah, they
help
made a huge difference.
really help us to bring out different characteristics and flavors in it, and that's why I like cocoa so much, because I believe it's the happy medium between soil and I mean, essentially it is hydroponic growing, but that medium particular, you can run some teas in it and you can get more of that that organic organic taste, and then we flush really well.
Yeah, no,
Well, you know
great.
what?
I've had
You,
great in
you,
both. Go ahead.
I use pebbles. The clay pebbles a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hydrotron.
I know what you're
You
talking
know,
about. Yeah.
and I really like that. And what I've done is run a nutrient film technique by having the water continuously running over the pebbles, and it's not a drip; it's like a stream.
Really, and that
And
doesn't
because
overdo it for like the roots.
Well, you think about it. There's a lot of air in there because of the space between
Yes.
the pebbles,
Sure,
right?
sure.
And plants don't drown because of water; they drown because of lack of
Lack of
oxygen.
oxygen.
So if when you have that water continuously going over the stones, that water is constantly in contact with the air. And there's a
Good point.
Venturi effect where it draws oxygen, it draws air down, the water flowing down draws oxygen down as well. Draws air down. So
That's interesting.
the plants are, thrive. I feel the plants thrive in that.
They grow much quicker too, and I feel like in that aspect,
Yeah, yeah.
with the hydro. So
But you can't like um, it, you you can use some teas in it, especially if they're boiled.
I noticed
And
a big
now
difference last run with using a compost tea. I was doing one a
uh,
week, and it
yeah.
definitely brought the frost out, made the buds nice and tight, and I noticed a difference with it for sure. We have another question from another group member, Jeff Latendra. He wants to know how you feel about how the industry's been going with a lot of the people that the mom and pop shops that really care and are passionate about the plant compared to the big corporations that are coming in. They have all the money in the world to bleed them out. Where you see the industry going in the next 5 years or so? Do you feel like a lot of these mom and pop shops that are actually focused on quality, the craft aspect, are going to get bled out by a lot of the corporate big dispensary, big can?
Well,
It's tough.
look at American industry,
Sure.
and as long as there was prohibition, the corporations were kept out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they couldn't get into it. But now that corporations can get into it, don't don't you think that Amazon is going to become the biggest pot seller ever?
Probably, unfortunately. But I feel like the
Right?
craft aspect, though, because it's like, a connoisseur such as yourself, me and Chad, we're all about the quality of the product, making sure it's clean. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of dispensaries that we work with in general and that have great product, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. And it's just like I feel like a lot of dispensaries kind of get like the bad, like the dark cloud over, like, I don't want dispensary weed, I want it the local craft bud. So I feel like it's going to be, in a sense, almost like the craft beer market. Like it's a niche
Well,
market.
a lot of dispensaries are vertically the last part of the vertical integration, so that you'll like
And
what
that's the
what
growing
I see
levels,
what I
correct?
see is happening. What I see is happening is that you have vertical integration at the point of cultivation. So the the cultivators that I see that are successful, medium and larger size cultivators, they all have branded product, and no product leaves their operation without being prepackaged, so that the store becomes like just like any other store. The store doesn't manufacture the beans, right?
Sure.
If you
They're
buy a
they're
can
the
of beans, the
brokers.
store doesn't matter. They're just selling it, and in doing that, then it's brand dependent, and you're going to have all qualities of brands. I mean, look, you can
Just
you
like
can
the
buy
beer
a
in a sense, right?
yeah, you're
So
right. Well, look, and also all different levels of quality, and and a lot of it will also be driven by marketing and publicity. And
mm-hmm.
uh, do
Influencing all
you
that
do
stuff.
you do you want to smoke Snoop's weed, or do you want to smoke
I
Chong's
want to smoke
weed,
Ed's
or
weed.
Willie's weed? Well, actually, what I'm trying to do is when the J27 comes out, I'd like to have um, different vertically integrated cultivators grow it and maintain a certain quality level of that, and so that you would be able to smoke it. But we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm just venturing into it, and just. But
I'm sure
on the other hand,
we'll see. It's interesting.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
definitely interesting. So, just we don't have too much more time, so I just want to touch base on some of the things you have coming up. You have a big event in Michigan, and for anybody that is viewing and you're in the Michigan area, this seems like it's going to be kind of the place to be. What are some details that if someone was to go to this, that you might be able to tell them? Obviously, you're going to be there. You got Mendo Dope. You got Danny Danko, who's actually a local around here, great guy, and you got a lot of other great people involved with this event. What is you're flying out? I'm assuming.
yeah, yeah. We are, and
Awesome.
so I look forward to it. It looked like a fun. I go to a lot. I go not to a lot, but I go to these conventions, and the worst thing about the conventions is the amount of alcohol that's consumed. Even, it's it's not just at
It's a big party.
it's not just that it's not just the suits. It's not just the suits, but even a lot. There's so much alcohol, and this looked like it. It was a little bit beyond that kind of thing, and it looked like a lot of fun. So Jane and I are both gonna, you know, uh, Jane and I are both going to be out there, and we're going to have a. I think that it's going to be,
I think you're gonna have a
and
good time.
Danny's a fun person to hang with, and I think it's going to be good.
I
Nice.
noticed Mendo Dope, and I also noticed Honeycomb, which is a beatboxer. He was just at an event, Grass
Yeah,
and Greener, that we were recently
yeah,
at. Some
Sister
cool artists on there.
Nancy,
So
Bone Thugs and Harmony. I mean, you got some legends here.
yeah.
No, that'll be good. Now, are you just going out to enjoy it, or are you going to vend there? You're going to be selling your book, and if anybody's watching, be sure
Well,
to if you don't know anything about Ed's book and you're just looking to get started, he's got all the information you need right in this book right here.
well,
It can be purchased right off your website.
yeah. Well, we'll sell some books, and I'll be available for photographs and to talk with people and things, and I'll also have the hats that are
I
so
need one of your
protective.
hats. I need one.
Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
send you out. We're gonna send you out a couple.
Awesome, Chad.
So
Me and Chad will be
awesome.
rocking them up.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
I'll
okay,
rock that hat. For
yeah.
sure. I'll be
Awesome.
wearing it all the time.
So Loud Seeds.
Loud
You
Seeds. It
know the
sounds familiar.
James Loud
Mhm.
runs him,
Okay.
and I was over at his lab. It's very, very impressive. He's doing a lot of good. Uh, he's just opening it up, but it's going to be doing a lot of good science, I'm sure. But he has all of these hats from the different seed companies, and they're all baseball caps, right? And he has about 20 different hats there, and then this.
He needs yours.
So,
There you go. All right, perfect.
so he has it. So it's interesting. They're all that's how I see myself. They're all the same, and I, I'm looking outside the box. You know,
Sure.
everybody said, "Oh, I have to get a baseball cap," and I said, "I want to get something that really helps people. I want to
They're
make
working in the
sure.
market.
I want to make sure, and whether they use my hat or one like the one that you're wearing, but please wear those hats. Protect your head, protect your neck, your ears, your face. It's very important.
Especially if you're in the garden every single
Also, a good song by the Wu Tang Clan, Protect Your Neck.
protection. Yeah, protect. Fair enough. Well, hey Ed, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm looking forward to crossing paths with you again in the near future, either an
Yeah,
event or on another show. I mean, we went over the time here, and I feel like we could keep on going for another hour here. So we'll have to bring you back on, down the road a little bit and see what's going on with Ed Rosenthal in the future. If there are any last thoughts from either of you guys, if you guys haven't followed Chad, he has his new show, Table Talk. Check him out on Facebook. He just won the Best Bud competition. Man, congrats. Very proud of you on that. That's awesome. Make sure you
Thank
guys
you. Thank you.
Ed Rosenthal. I have this up. This is actually his Instagram. For some odd reason, I got that messed up. But this, if you check out Ed Rosenthal on Instagram, make sure you give him a follow. Always good stuff that you guys are coming out with. And if you guys aren't in the Average Joe Grow group, the Cannabis Radio Network, be sure to give us a like, a follow, share this video if you guys could. We get lost in the algorithm with the cannabis a little bit here. But other than that, any last thoughts, Ed or Chad?
No, thank you for coming on, Ed. We appreciate you, man. We appreciate everything you've done for the industry and just being you, man. So thank you.
I'd like to come on and talk with you about the million marijuana seed giveaway because
sure.
Everybody should grow their own. You know, that's a solution. You know, to you were talking about the dispensaries and the how they're becoming right. The most important thing in 1972, when they had the first initiative for marijuana, was in California. It lost, but it said free legal backyard marijuana. And even in many states where marijuana is legal, for instance, the state of Washington, people aren't allowed to grow it.
In Washington you can't? Really?
No.
Wow.
No.
I didn't know that. I did a big tour out there probably 3 years ago. I mean, it was all big legal facilities, but I never knew that you weren't allowed to just, like over in here in Mass, you can grow, I think, 12 plants outside legally. No problems. I mean, as you know.
Not in Washington. It's all, you're supposed to buy your marijuana. You're not supposed to grow it.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Fun fact for the day.
Right.
Right. All right. Well, so this seed giveaway, you can get involved with this, correct? With on your website with another purchase.
Yes.
That sort. Okay.
Yeah, but also I periodically have seed giveaways where there's no obligation to buy anything. It's just come and get your seeds.
Absolutely. Yeah. We tend to do.
I do that in the spring.
Nice. That's awesome. And you know this is the kind of stuff that we fully back and everything as well too. Is just to grow your own medicine. It's very simple to do. Well, it's easy to grow a plant. If you want to grow something really great, there's obviously steps that are necessary to do so, and that's something that me or Chad, we do consulting over here. Feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to walk you through it. We actually have, you know what? We might as well end it with a quick little video. So we just created some strains last year, me and Chad. And these are some of the final results that we got with them. We have, put it up real quick for you guys. So the first one we have here, this is Mac Diesel, and this is a cross of Mac 1 with Lemon Diesel. And I got to say, she is a beautiful plant, nice and frosty, all that. She has all the nice tight buds. The nose on her, the smell of her is kind of leans towards the Mac aspect more than the lemon. The next one we have here, this is our Lemon Gelato 45. We actually do, this is the seeds that we give away pretty much every single week to get people growing. This is Lemon Gelato 45 with the Lemon Diesel. Same idea. She almost reminds me of like some beasters back in the day, the look of her, all the red hairs on her. The smell to her, though, is nice and gassy and kind of like a creamy, cakey smell to her. This pheno in particular came out way nicer than the other one that I'd shown earlier. And this is our final one. This is Jelly Lemonade. This is Jelly Rancher times Lemon Diesel. This one gets you really big, I gotta say. This is a good, like, feel good, end of the day, super stony, like around like your eyes, feels really heavy, but gets you moving for the day. And
what's that again? Is that the gelato?
The last one is the Jelly Lemonade. So
Jelly Lemonade.
The one at the bottom there.
The one before that.
The one before that was the Lemon Gelato 45. And I have, I don't know, it's over here real quick. That was funny. Before you were getting on, I was just sitting here trying to get some trimming done. But it all came out really good. And honestly, I'd be happy to send you some seeds, Ed, if you want to give it to some of your professional growers up there. I'd love to see what they can do with it. But it's really nice, tight buds. It yields well. Probably about 9 week flower on her. Obviously that can vary with the different growing conditions that you have, but she's right around 9 weeks, 8 9 weeks, and mostly indica dominant with that one on the high. More of like an end of the day kind of smoke. The jelly lemonade I've really been enjoying. The bag appeal on that one I don't think is quite as nice as the other ones, but as you know, that's not everything is the bag appeal. A lot of it's based on obviously the terpenes, the taste, the smell, all that, all those different factors.
So,
But
so
yeah,
I think you know what, I think people put too much into the taste, the smell, the look, and
sure,
I'm more interested in the high.
absolutely. The kick you in the
That
head.
number one, you know. I don't care what it looks like. You know, you roll it up, they all look the same.
That's it.
So not quite, but you know,
I
but
know
the
what you're saying
real
though. It's got to be that half
the
inch or
high,
less.
right?
Get
Well,
out.
we wouldn't be if not. It would be a lot cheaper. We could just smoke CBD.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, hey, Ed, I'll let's connect after the show at some point. I'd be happy to send some seeds out to you. I need one of your hats
Uh,
for sure. I'll be sure to wear that. And
okay, we're gonna send you the. We're gonna send you the hats. We can do that today. Does
whatever's
Jane
good for you. I'll contact
Does Jane
Jane.
have your Does Jane have
Yep. Yep. She's been
your
great.
address and everything?
No,
Okay.
I'll send her my address, mine and Chad's address, and I'll get us some hats. We'll be sure to represent here on
S-
upcoming
s-
shows.
Text her or email her
I
right
will.
away because
Sure.
we're packing today.
Okay.
But as soon
Yeah,
as I
let's
push
get
Okay.
out
stop,
quick. We
it's
want.
my first thing I do. And
Okay.
hey, I hope you guys have a great time over in Michigan. Safe travels, and hope it turns out great for you guys.
So where are you out of?
We're right in.
We're like
I'm
Boston, Mass,
yeah, Boston area.
Yeah.
Rhode Island,
Yeah.
Yep.
New England.
Okay.
You will be. Are you going to
Okay.
be at the
Well,
Harvest Cup in November over here?
nobody's invited us yet. They haven't
I,
invited us.
I'm
Oh
inviting you.
wow.
You can come.
Well, we are giving you a formal invite. I mean, we
Yeah.
need you out
Well,
there.
the invite, you know, it would include
I
Airfare,
understand.
travel,
Well,
all
we're
that.
gonna talk. Well, I'm gonna talk to some of the people. We'll talk to some of the people we know over there because I know people were really, really excited to see you last year. So I mean, I
That's when
definitely
we
feel
met
Ed
you.
Rosenthal should be back.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's coming
Okay.
up.
Well,
Maybe that's where we'll cross paths again here. We'll
okay.
get in touch with
That
you.
sounds
So
good.
awesome. I want to
Yeah.
thank everybody for tuning in today. Thanks, Chad. Congrats again on winning the first and
Thank
third
you.
place there. And Ed, always a pleasure, my friend. I've learned so much from you over the years and really look up to everything you've done in the industry. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. My name's Jake Ganem, host here on your Average Joe Grow Show with the Cannabis Radio Network. Everybody, have a wonderful night. We'll see you next Wednesday at 7 p.m.
Great.
Thank you, Ed. We appreciate you, man.
Hello.